All join palms. You repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Palms down. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all here today. Anyone here for the first time visiting? Anyone here for the first time that doesn't want to put their hand up in the air? Last week I had to do like an eyes closed thing because people were afraid to raise their hands. So then I said, okay, eyes closed. And then I asked the question and then all the hands went up. So... yeah. Well, welcome back. Those of you who keep coming back, why? Why do you show up? Why show up here? How does it impact you? What's the reason? Who wants to share? Yeah?
So this is the second time. Thank you. I feel more grounded and more clarity after.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. What else? Why show up?
It's a little reminder to swim against the stream.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I like to meditate with a group. The energy is very calming and purposeful.
Yeah. Yeah, the intention is important for sure with others. What else?
I made a commitment.
Made a commitment. Commitments are hard, huh?
Sometimes yes.
Yeah. Who's really bad at keeping commitments? Liars. What else? Yeah, close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes and tell me who's bad at making commitments. Commitments are, we used to do we've kind of changed variations of it, but for about 7-8 years we did what we used to call the Dharma Bum Life program, and that's evolved into Engaged Buddhism program and some other things. But I remember this was in the early days. I think we did about 8 years. And we would meet twice a week. This was downtown Temple. And it was 2 nights a week from 7 to 9. And then it was 4 retreats on the weekends. Every other Saturday. It was an 8 or 10-week program. And I remember when we would start that program, the first night we were kind of doing the kind of introduction to the program, reviewing the program, etc. And I remember talking about exactly that, the commitment, that how hard it is to actually commit to doing things. And I used to use the example, like for those who love chocolate, even if you committed to eating chocolate every single day for like 10 weeks, it might get difficult. So even the things that we enjoy or that bring us pleasure, that we like, often are hard to commit. And so we'd spend a lot of time exploring that, and ultimately what it always led to, and this was really my intention, was we had people kind of partner up. And the idea was that you were committing to showing up, not for yourself, because who are we very often good at letting down and disappointing and giving up on? Often it's ourselves. But when we think about this practice and the Bodhisattva Path and doing this practice for the benefit of others, when you practice, when you're kinder, gentler, more grounded, more at peace, less angry, less stressed, less anxious, who benefits from that? Yes, you do, I know, but let's not be so selfish. Who else? Everybody else, right? So the idea was that that night they each had a partner, and their motivation for showing up, because I would share, like, look, Tuesday's going to roll around, or whatever night. Actually, I think we did Mondays and Thursdays. Thursday's going to roll around, and you're going to be tired. It's going to be 6:30, and you got to be at temple at 7 o'clock, and you're going to be tired. You're going to be exhausted, and your favorite show's on, and you're hungry, and you're not going to want to show up, and you'll give up on yourself. I'd seen this, so many times, and so the intention was to show up for that person because they needed you there. And so very often when we look at things in our lives that we're struggling with, right, the commitment to come here, but really coming here is a commitment to practicing all the things you hear and learn and talk about: loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, all these things, kind of these key buzzwords that you hear around Buddhism. That's why we're here, is to bring these pieces into our lives. And if we often think about how it makes a difference in other people's lives, right? Could be loved ones, family members, could be colleagues, could be strangers, could be, the person at the grocery store that you're going to bump into later that really needs to give them they need a smile from you and not like a middle finger from you. That person, that's who we're showing up for. And when we make this practice about others, I think there's a deeper motivation that can kind of anchor to our path and our practice. And yes, I get it. It's for us as well. We're the ones that are stressed or anxious or angry or sad or depressed or whatever you're going through. So yes, you're showing up for you. But at the times when you're challenged, you're struggling, and you don't want to show up, and this is really for anything in your life, not just here, try to think about making it for somebody else. And hopefully that kind of drives home and deepens that motivation a little bit to continue to practice. So. All right, so with that, we'll sit. Good morning to all of you who are joining virtually. Thanks for showing up. There's a chat box as you are. Feel free to say hello. A couple things I'll tell you with meditation before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice when you don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you are seated, also just trying to sit comfortably, relaxing the shoulders. If you need to move during meditation, simply move. Doesn't make you a bad meditator, it just means you need to move. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important with this practice, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in. Follow breath in. Breathing out. Follow breath out. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from your practice. Just sitting. Breathing. learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rest, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, It's nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And as we know, the present moment is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulties, challenges. That's what we get. This practice is learning to be with life as it arises, not escaping from it, which is how many have spent a majority of their lives, running, running, running. This practice is sitting, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do. This is your karma, your thoughts and words and actions. How your thoughts, your words, and your actions impact your life and the life of those around you. That is the heart of this practice. That's it. It requires us to become aware of the intention behind our thoughts and our words and our actions, and understand how our intention is either driven from a place of ego, greed, anger, ignorance, attachment to the sense of self, or if our intention is coming from a place of generosity, compassion, and wisdom, and for the benefit of others. And nobody can tell you that except yourself. That's why the sitting practice, the meditation practice, whether it's sitting, walking, whatever type of meditation practice you do, it's important to reflect on the nature of your own mind. So much of our day is trying to fix and change and correct and everybody outside of us. You're welcome to keep doing that as long as you like. Most people aren't going to listen to me anyway, so feel free to try to change and control and fix everybody else. Good luck with that, by the way. But this practice is about you. And that's why it's so much fun. Because you get to look at the nature of what your mind does. And I don't know about you, but that can be pretty scary. You know? When you look at your own mind, it's not fun. It's not pleasant. It's pretty scary. You practice, you read, you learn a lot of kind, peaceful stuff, and then you look at what happens in your mind and you're like, what? I just spent 3 days reading a Pema Chodron book. I'm supposed to be peaceful now. Right? It takes time. 5-7 years probably, and then you might start to see a little bit of a difference. So keep at it. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, say, and do. And that's all. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And we'll use the rest of our brief time for that. For those who are joining virtually, again, welcome. Glad you're here. Feel free to say hello. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box, and I'll do my best to respond as well. So Open up to questions.
You must have finally answered all our questions.
Thank God. Only took 18 years. Now what am I going to do?
The last thing you said today was on my mind about not wanting to change people or influence, although we always live with people or work with people, and how do you balance sharing what you know when you feel like other people are not seeing the whole thing, maybe from at least my perspective,
Yeah.
but also not being, not changing minds, right? Letting people have that free will to see themselves.
Sure. So the question, just for those virtually that didn't hear it, is how do you balance, what I said was on your mind about, which is interesting, your word choice too. You said not changing people or influencing people. How do you find the balance when they don't see the world the way you perceive the world? And in essence, my guess is what you're getting at in a way is you might see somebody you know and love suffering, and you might think you know how to help them, and so you want to share that with them, yeah? Okay. So, a couple things. One, what I always say, and that's why what was interesting is just in the choice of words about change people versus influence people. Influencing people is very important. Not attaching to influencing people is also very important, right? I mean, the Buddha's life was dedicated for 45 years to influencing people. He wanted to change people. He wanted people to learn. He wanted people to suffer less. He had a beautiful intention and mission in life, which was once he figured out, even going back to why he left home, right? At 29 years old, he left home because he realized that the world was suffering and that he wanted to figure out how to keep people from suffering. So he dedicated, committed, determined for 6 years to figure it out. It took him 6 years, at least, in that life. And then at 35, began to awaken and realize the cause of suffering, and then spent 45 years heavily trying to influence people. And then he died at 80, right? Now, this is not in your question, but I'll put it out there because it popped into my head. Often people will ask, they'll make comments about social media and things like that and how destructive it can be and how terrible it can be. And I've had people over the years ask me if I think, the Buddha would have used social media. Absolutely. 100% I think he would have, but in a way that's probably very different from how many of us may use it, right? So I want to start there because there's nothing wrong, at least for me when I look at practice, in the intention of wanting to influence people. I spent every day the last 18 years trying to influence people, trying to help them stop being greedy, angry, and ignorant, and learn to be generous, compassionate, and wise. But then the challenge of non-attachment comes in. So when you try to get a loved one to see the world your way, and they don't, how do you feel?
Not happy.
Not happy. Frustrated, not happy, angry, irritated, maybe it just depends from day to day, right? But it's not happy. So that is, your intention is beautiful. You see people suffer and you want them to suffer less, and so you're going to share with them ways that you think they can suffer less, and they're going to absolutely, completely ignore you. And then you're angry. So now your intention came with an attachment, an expectation. And then, again, I'm just rambling here. I don't know your situation, but we've all been there, I'm sure, where then they don't listen. They don't want to listen. Then we get frustrated. Then we push them even more. Then they get more frustrated. Now we're fighting over stupid shit just because we wanted to help them, missing the exact point, which was I want to help someone. I talked about this the other night, but if you go to a restaurant and you like it and you tell your friends, hey, check out this restaurant, people probably aren't going to avoid you or feel threatened by you because you told them to go try a restaurant, right? Same thing with a movie. See a movie, you like it, you tell people, hey, check out this Netflix series. It'll only waste 3 weeks of your life, but it'll be absolutely worth it. And then 3 months later, you're like, yes, that was worth it, But taking care of mental health, emotional health, addiction, which is mental, emotional health, religious practice, spiritual practice, meditation practice, all of those areas, people don't want to hear it unless they're ready to hear it. And so the practice is to continue to share. Literally, like 2 seats over from me the other night, someone asked a very similar question about how do I explain to my family what I'm doing, right? And my response was, in essence, don't. Don't explain it. Just talk about what it does for you. So very often when we see loved ones suffering, they don't want to hear it from us, especially family members, especially loved ones, especially parents or children, whoever it is. We have a better chance of convincing absolute strangers to take care of themselves very often than we do loved ones. So share with them your life, your practice, what's helped you, and then you try to kind of create some space. But keep trying to influence people. Don't quit. If we stop trying to influence people, this world would be a bigger mess than it is now. Just don't hate people when they don't do what you want. Don't hate people when their views are not what yours are. When they're filled with anger, continue to pour out compassion. That's what they need, more than ever. So, it's the practice of non-attachment. Yeah. So there's a question here that says, please speak about how your practice helps in times of uncertainty. Every day is uncertain. And I think the practice for me personally truly is the same. The uncertainty of, I don't even know if I'll wake up tomorrow. Maybe I die today. This practice has been deeply ingrained in me. And I truly see things that way. It doesn't mean that you don't plan for future, you don't have ideas of how you'd like things to be, or that you abandon hopes or dreams or whatever you want to call them. But the reality is every day is uncertain. And we have no idea what's going to happen this afternoon, or tomorrow, or next week, or next month, or next year, if we even get there. So I think the practice of coming back to the breath, using the meditation practice of coming back to present moment, using the teachings of impermanence during, as you say, times of uncertainty are incredibly important. Anyone here ever had a good day? Does that last forever? No. Anyone had a bad day? Does that last forever? No. Maybe more frequent, but that's, again, that's your attachment to expectations of how you want the world to be. So I think in times of uncertainty, for me personally, I don't necessarily see times of uncertainty versus times of certainty. Every day is uncertain, and we don't know what the day holds. We don't know what the week holds. We don't know what the year holds. But if we come back to practicing patience, using the breath to stay present, and the impermanence of all phenomena, as the Buddha taught. All conditioned phenomena is impermanent. Everything is subject to change. So you may have a situation in your life or around you that you don't like. It'll change. It might change for the worse. It might change for the better. We don't know, but it'll change. 100% it will change. But I think the practice of certainty is the one that actually gets dangerous. Because then we think things are going to be the same. No matter how bad you might think something may be, I promise you it could get worse. And no matter how great you might think something may be, it could get better. So, I find it helpful to just abide in uncertainty, the unknown, which is always there. And then when the things happen that were, uncertainty really, there's a lot behind that tied to fear of how things may turn out. Things could turn out better, things could turn out worse, but I think in moments where we're afraid of what may occur in our lives or in the lives of those around us, we practice the same way we practice every other day. As Trungpa called it, fearlessness. Always live with kindness and compassion in your heart, no matter how much fear you have, is the practice. Not easy, of course, but that's why we call it a practice. What else?
So I was thinking more about her first question. With regards to, I think as I've done this practice for a while, I believe I'm noticing more struggle and turmoil in other people, and how they might be beating themselves up over something. Mm-hmm. There might be things that bother me less now than they did 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But I guess I do struggle a little with where's the balance or threshold of when do you interject and when do you just wait till they're ready.
And wait till what?
Wait till they're ready to talk about something.
But that's not on you.
Well, it's whether to say something or just kind of read the room. Are they going to be annoyed by this, or will they take it?
Yeah, I understand. So, but the nature of your question. So the question was sort of in here. It is going back to the first question, which is about when to find the balance between when is it appropriate or time to interject, and how do you read the room, as you said. But everything in your question, what I heard was there was one word there that you didn't say, but everything in your question was about it. Control. How do you control how other people respond to you? How do you control whether people will react to you a certain way or not? You just share what you want to share. If they throw shit at you, then they don't want to hear it. If they want to hear it, they'll hear it. But there's a balance there that's hard to find, and this is the practice of wisdom. Right? So you cultivate wisdom, meaning you recognize where's your anger, where's your attachments, where's your cravings, how much of you wanting to help people, and this is for everybody, how much of you wanting to help people is really about you? Because there would have been a time in all of our lives, I'm sure, where somebody would have walked up to us and said, hey, you should go check out this meditation Buddhist stuff. And you'd be like, no. I mean, if somebody said this to me 25 years ago, I would have punched them. So you have to really recognize that it's not up to us to determine when people are ready or not ready. And it's usually pretty obvious. The balance should come pretty quickly when you recognize, if you share it, you see, the first part of your question, which was really beautiful, is that the more you practice, the more you see suffering in others. Absolutely. Right? That's part of this practice, is to recognize that all beings are suffering. That's what the Buddha said. Everywhere. Those you know and love, and also the absolute strangers that you've never met before, and also those that you hate. Everybody is suffering. So the practice is to share ultimately loving kindness and compassion with everyone, all time, all space, all directions. But not everybody wants to hear it. And you should know that pretty quickly. You know, if you start talking to somebody and they walk away from you or don't want to hear it or shut you down, they don't want to hear it. And that's where I say it's not our place to push it on them, to force it on them, to, you know, kind of shove it at them. Like, their suffering is their suffering. That's why I bring up the example of there would have been a time in our lives where somebody said, go do this or whatever it might be. We would have said no, because we weren't ready. You know, Buddhist teachings, as you know, it's not something where everybody's out on the street corner saying, hey, come join us. You know, it's when people are ready. There's that expression, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. To me, the teacher is the Sangha, the community, the Buddhist practice. It's not about one individual. But when the people are ready to make changes in their life, they will. But then we have to practice our attachment to their suffering, which is we don't want them to suffer. Well, that's on you. Not their, it's not, and we all have to be, my suggestion is be very careful of this, because this can happen very clearly. And this is where I talk about what I call Buddhist arrogance, right? You know, you do this practice for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you start judging and critiquing people for doing the same thing you were doing like 3 weeks ago, you know? And I went through that early on in practice, where all of a sudden the friends and the guys that I was hanging out with, I didn't want to do what they were doing anymore. And so I started judging them, thinking I was better than they were. But literally like a month ago, I was doing the same thing they were doing. And all of a sudden I was all wrapped up in my Buddhist arrogance, thinking, well, no, I practice Buddhism now, so, you know, I'm better than you are. I mean, that was the most ignorant thing in the world. Because then all I was doing was labeling and judging them for living their lives that I was living with them a month ago. And so we want to be careful about when we see suffering in others. It's not our place necessarily to fix them or heal them or change them. And if they don't want to change, if they don't want to get healthy, then that's where they're at. No matter how much we might dislike it. No, most people don't like to see people suffer. And I'm guessing all of us in this room have watched people suffer from, you know, varying degrees. And it's not fun. But my ignorance is my ignorance. And just like other people's suffering and ignorance is other people's suffering and ignorance. So, what else? Yeah.
What do you think of the stereotypes?
What do I think of stereotypes?
Yeah.
They suck. I don't think they're good at all, you know? I think that, you know, you've heard me talk about this a lot, but we create, on Sunday we talk about the Heart Sutra, we look at the skandhas, in essence we create a box in our head, a story in our head about how we think the world is. People, places, and things. You know, people we like, places we like, whatever we like and dislike. And we create these kind of boxes that get closed, and we think, well, everybody fits into some category. And we do, we spend our whole lives, you know, kind of putting people into certain categories based on just silly stuff. And these stereotypes get built, and they're dangerous. They're toxic. They lead to tremendous oppression and fear. They suck. And so my suggestion is for all of us to recognize the stereotypes that we have, because we all have them, right? Part of being honest with practice is being honest with ourselves. It says, okay, yes, I do have stereotypes. What are they? Right? Can I be honest with them? Can I look at them and understand where they're coming from? And how can I change them? How can I break them down? And how, as I said, how toxic and dangerous are they? But yeah, stereotypes they're dangerous. Yeah. Yes, thumbs down for sure. Yeah. 2 thumbs down, definitely. Yeah. What else? I think I kind of said this, but I want to point this out a little bit, a little more. I think it's important for, you know, all of us as a practice to, as I said, recognize what stereotypes do you have, truly. Because there's probably a lot. And it's really unfair. You know? I mean, we don't like to be stereotyped. Right? None of us like to be stereotyped. But we are. And, you know, recognize that it's not fair to do that to people. Very dangerous. You know, and I sit here truly having to practice this as a very privileged, you know, male, white, heterosexual, able-bodied person. I'm in the best stereotypes of all categories based on global stereotypes. So waking up to that was pretty scary. To realize the stereotypes that I created in my mind for so many years based on all the privilege that I had. Super tough. And then you're like, oh shit, I really am an asshole. You know, truly. Like, can you be honest with yourself about that? And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, he's so humble. No, I'm not. I wasn't. Can you be honest with that? That's the practice. What privilege, if any, do you have, and can you be honest about it? And how do you use that to go through your day? And how do you label and stereotype others throughout your day? Huge part of this practice. What else?
Go ahead.
There's another part of this practice that's outward. I have a lot of anxiety about what will be people making choices for other people. I think I'm talking about what I think is the elephant in the room is the election on Monday. And how are we active in things that matter, that are sort of non-negotiable? Being kind to others, being kind to our environment, being kind to all sentient beings. How do you talk to me about overcoming that fear of how to be active, proactive, and active without judging, without.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally like I could just rewind and say the exact same thing I said to Joe's question about uncertainty. It's the same thing. The question of how, regardless of any situation, the practice does not change. The world has always been a mess. The world will always be a mess. The question is, are you a mess? And the more we try to change and fix control outside of us, the more frustrated and anger and fear we have. The practice is to change you, so you can go and fight for what you believe in, and speak up for what you believe in, and create change for what you believe in, but to do it without being angry and pissed off at the people who don't agree with you, which is always going to be a lot of people. Always. We always want to point fingers at one person or one group or one place. Millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people in this world completely disagree with everything you think. You can't fight all them. But you can make a difference in one person's life. And that difference in one person's life can make a difference in another person's life. But it's really hard to do that unless you recognize, I too have caused pain and suffering. Have you caused harm in people's lives?
No doubt.
Oh, I thought you said no. I was like, come on. I know you better than that. Right? Some people would have said no. I knew would have been honest. You know? Yeah, no doubt, right? So you've caused tremendous pain. Well, I added tremendous, but by the way you said no doubt. Right? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you've caused tremendous pain in people's lives. And that sucks. And there are other people out there who have and will cause tremendous pain in other people's lives. And that sucks. When you cause tremendous pain in people's lives, What you needed and wanted was love and compassion and understanding. And that is the hardest thing to do when you're pissed off and angry and filled with hatred. That's what this practice is to recognize, how do I influence one person's life? Starting with myself. Again, influence. I mean, this is influence. To me, the Buddha was, what we call them, any youngsters? Influencers, right? I mean, to be an influencer today is kind of a cool, like the Buddha would have a hashtag, like hashtag influencer, right? So the Buddha, I mean, here we are 2,500 years later. We are all, those of you here, are being influenced by this one person's life who died 2,500 years ago. Fearless. He didn't throw up his hands and say, well, oh shit, people disagree with me. Or, oh no, people don't think I should be here. Lots of people would have disagreed with him and wanted him dead and gone. But he kept going. Even the story, when he awakened, is that Brahma, the Hindu god, came down and, again, he was 35 at this time, and he realized the cause of suffering. He wanted to go teach. And he thought to himself something to the effect of, nobody's going to understand this. I can't go teach. And Brahma came down and said, the kind of expression is, there are people with little dust in their eyes. Some will understand. Go teach. So did he reach everyone? No. But did he change people's lives? Yes. Fight like hell to change people's lives. For the better. Yeah. No? Sorry.
I didn't really have a question for me.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that? We'll do one more before we close. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've been in Dharma over Tuesday. And so at some point I realized I couldn't watch anything without getting angry. Anything to do with any of it. And so I just stopped watching.
Okay. So, yeah. So the first part of what you said is you've been all amped up about what's coming ahead, and you realized that you couldn't get angry. You couldn't watch anything without getting angry. And I let you finish. I wanted to cut you off, but I let you finish anyways. And you said, so you realized you stopped watching. Whose fault is it that you got angry? Yours. Doesn't mean you like what you're seeing. Doesn't mean you agree with what you're seeing. Doesn't mean you approve of what you're seeing. But nobody causes our anger but ourselves. People don't plant themselves inside of us and cause anger. We cause ourselves anger. Again, this is the Buddhist teaching, right? Walking alongside Martin Luther King. Fighting with him. Do not hate those that oppress you. You must love them and fight like hell to create change. Hatred only breeds more hatred. And, yeah. Yeah, Cynthia, then we'll close.
Thank you very much for just saying, go out and influence just one person. And I was just thinking, I saw this little meme that said, if you have the power to make one person happy today, do it. The world needs more of that. I'm thinking, if every one of us in here made one person happy just today, that would be so huge, because then that would keep going. And I just wanted to thank you for saying that.
Thank you. Thanks, Cynthia. All right, so I'm going to close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Shirley Tam during her time of rebirth, and to Danny and their family and friends who suffer at this time. All right. right, just a few announcements before y'all head out. Thanks for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma Bum. We opened up this temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students. We're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. We have different practices every night, different people leading from different Buddhist traditions. Every Thursday at 4:30, we do, I think, probably one of the best things around here. It's a food redistribution program. We prepare gourmet vegetarian meals, also known as peanut butter and jelly, and we feed people who sleep on the streets. So anytime you think your life sucks and you lack gratitude for all you have, feed people who sleep on a sidewalk or participate in that, and it really can change things. So first Saturday of the month, there's a bunch of people downstairs now. We do a half day of silence. It's from 8 to noon. So 4 hours, if 20 minutes of silence is torture for you, then I strongly recommend doing it for 4 hours. It's phenomenal to my knowledge. Most people have survived through it. It's not 4 hours sitting straight. It's about 20, 25-minute meditation sessions that are broken up with a 5-minute break or a walking meditation or a working meditation. So again, that's first Saturday of every month. And that's why the signs go up that say retreat in progress. So it starts up here and then moves downstairs. So they finish downstairs as well. Couple things out of the ordinary coming up. This will be our 15th annual Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving morning food redistribution program. We will meet here at 10 o'clock. We'll prepare sandwiches and actually we'll have socks and hand sanitizers and ponchos and feminine hygiene products and a bunch of other stuff. So we'll prepare stuff from about 10 to 11:30, and then we'll head downtown. So it's like our normal Thursday food redistribution times like 20. So that'll be Thanksgiving morning, 10 o'clock. It's all on the website. If you go there, there's a blog post on the front. You can read about it there. Also, this Wednesday, Alex, who tells stories of life of the Buddha, he'll be back this Wednesday. Wednesday nights we're doing guest speakers through the rest of the year. So he'll be back this Wednesday. I don't know exactly which story he's going to tell, but he always tells stories of the life of the Buddha or disciples of the Buddha. So he'll be here Wednesday night. If you haven't seen him, he's really great. He's been leading for us for 18 years. Otherwise, Buddha Fuse there if you need anything. Downstairs, thanks all for being here. I wish you well, and we'll see you soon.